Spoken label.
He lurked in the shadows, waiting and hoping she wouldn't take a different route. This was her usual room. He knew that. He knew her.
Ghost of Me, the new book by Amanda Steele, can be found at Amazon, Kobo, Waterstones, and many, many other places. Spoken. Hi guys, it's Andy N. Thanks today for downloading or streaming yet another episode of Spoken Label. As you may or may not be aware, Spoken Label was started in the beginning of 2006, and currently we have well over 150 sessions recorded since then. Although you can find it on various networks, the full archive is available for streaming and downloading at Spoken Label bandcamp.com. It is a free download or free stream in there, but obviously if you feel like chucking me a few pennies that way, it'd be eternally grateful to help me keep this podcast going and keep improving my equipment, etc. Enjoy. Speak to you soon. Bye bye. Spoken Label.
Hi guys. Okay, it's Andy N. Back in the house on Zoom again today for Spoken Label. Got a gentleman with me today, and I met him at a reading in Nottingham, or not in Nottingham, on Zoom in Nottingham, run by Mary Mother Hubbard fairly recently. Now, I've really enjoyed this young gentleman's stuff, and we booked this in ages ago, didn't we, mate? So I've got a gentleman called Poet RS with me today. So I'm just going to call him R, because if I have to go and call him that, I'll get mixed up. So, R, would you like to, first of all, my friend, introduce yourself to us? Obviously, tell everybody where you're from and what started off your creativity, and we'll take it from there, mate.
So thank you for having me, first of all. I really appreciate coming on the platform and just out here speaking my truths and let everybody know who I am. So my name is Poet RS. I'm a spoken word poet. I'm a workshop facilitator. I'm an advocate of mental health and of Black Lives Matter, civil rights and self-esteem, which is what I portray within my spoken word poetry and my workshops as well. I am a teacher, a father of 3.
Oh, are you? I didn't know that one. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Brilliant, mate.
I'm a father of 3, and I'm a speaker of truths. I'm a speaker of truths to help and inspire people.
Oh,
so that is a little introduction about me.
Brilliant. Now, I know you're from the London area, aren't you? So do you want to tell people which part of London you're from, then? And were you always from that part of London? Have you always been were you born in South London, then, were you?
No, so do you know what? Funny enough, not many people know this, right? So I was actually born in West London, and then my parents moved to South London when I was like barely 1 year old. So I never had like an affiliation with West London because I didn't even know like I was a human at that time. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, you barely plumbing has come at your mummy's tummy by that point, hadn't you? So yeah,
pretty much. It was pretty much darkness for those times.
No, get you completely with that, mate.
Yeah, I was raised in South London, and it really opened my eyes and shaped me as to like what I want in life and what I don't want in life. And I think it's very important to have the balance of the two. So yeah, South London. Big up my South London people. I love you, man.
Same with me in Manchester, mate. I always pick up Manchester, mate. Right. So when it's your roots, mate, it is what it is, isn't it? So
that's what it is, right?
Yeah, I've got family down towards Essex way, to honest you. So I do know London fairly well, to honest you. So not been down there for obviously for a few obvious reasons for a few years now, but I'll be back down there at some point. So
listen, come. I'm waiting for those barbecues to start back up again. Summertime's coming.
Oh, I've got friends at the moment that are actually booking themselves in for outdoor festivals at the moment. And I'm thinking to myself,
nice.
I don't know if they're going to happen this year. So
don't say that. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Well, it's just that I have had an invite for a barbecue myself actually in July with someone at backdoor, someone's garden, I know. So yeah, well, let's hope, don't we, so mate? So definitely that. So now we're here today, obviously, to talk about your creativity. Then, so where did all this come from originally? Then,
this is gonna sound so cliche, but
I love cliche. Go for
it. So my poetry journey is very organic, right? And I can say that with pride because I never started off writing poetry. I've always loved spoken word in some form of a context. Like I used to, when I was younger, I used to listen to Def Jam poetry. And then when I was in school, I actually hated the poetry that they put in schools. But I was like 13 and I thought like this was a great way to like talk to ladies. So
good man. Good man.
Yeah. So, like,
obviously your other half will appreciate hearing that, will she?
Yeah, so like the younger me was like, you know, I was like, ooh, I could use some of these lyrics. And I won't incriminate myself with the success rate, but you know, we'll move on from there. We'll move on from there.
I mean, you tried. That's all they're saying. They say God loves a trier, don't they? Right? So,
you know what? God loves a good trier for real. So I always had like a shallow affiliation for poetry and like a subtle affiliation for spoken word, but it wasn't until I was in my late 20s. It wasn't until like 2019 where I went through a breakup, and it was but even prior to the breakup, like I was dealing with a lot of emotions. I was dealing with a lot of mental health that was suppressed for a long time due to lack of understanding, lack of knowledge. I'd even say pride that got in the way as well. Which is why I'm a massive advocate, because I've changed so much now. I understand the other side and I understand both the sides. So because of my mental health, because of my breakup, I had a lot of trauma and I decided to write. I went through therapy, you know, and I decided to write to heal. So I actually wasn't writing poetry at all. I was just writing to heal myself.
Yeah.
And it organically manifested into poetry. Like it started off with just like pages and pages of writing, to stanzas, to wordplay, to concepts, to construction. And it's just been building and building ever since. And like I said, I only started in November 2019. So
I didn't realize you were that recent, actually, because if anyone's heard your stuff, it's really advanced writing. And no, I'm not going to start with bad mouth. Anyone was just starting to write, you know what I mean? But when I heard you over at Nottingham Night, I thought to myself, wow. I thought you really had something there, and I thought, wow.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the journey that I'm going on. You know, like the workshops came about this year. So again, that's something new. Everything's new, really. But that's like new. That's like new, you know.
Yeah. I mean, like you're like a kid in an even newer candy shop at the moment, aren't you?
Oh, believe me, just opened up. And like so it meant, so my work, my writing for healing manifested into poetry. And then the first lockdown gave me a blessing I didn't understand at the time. It's only sort of going through the lockdown I understood the blessing it gave me, which is it gave me time to work on my poetry, to work on myself, to understand what I'm doing with these words. And then that helped me to progress in terms of how I write, why I write. Because I only used to be able to write poetry if I was outside in a certain location.
Oh, did you? Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, that was the only way I could write poetry.
That's unusual.
Yeah, I think it was something about that location, because I used to go there just to think. It was actually in Trafalgar Square. It's the fountains in Trafalgar Square.
Oh, I love it around there. Yeah, been there a few times myself.
Amazing. Because it's like a nice flow of like hustle and bustle of people. Then you've got like the water from the fountains, and you've got the cars moving, and you know, like on a nice blue sky, like it's just such an open area, and scenic wise, it looks really cool. And that really, like that setting, that environment allowed me to write with freedom.
How did you find this setting? Was it by chance then, was it? Or
I mean, I always used to go to the art galleries there. Me and my friends used to just chill on the steps and just like eat food. You know, whilst visiting like art galleries, just chill on the steps and eat food. And so it's always been there, like as a setting. It's always been a place like I've gone to for different reasons. I just chose this reason because it just helped me in terms of like calming me down. It helped me in terms of freeing my mind to write. But what the first lockdown did is it made me change because I couldn't go there anymore. So I had to find a new way of trying to inspire myself. And I had to find a new way of tapping into these feelings and emotions in order to write. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to write anything. And that small part of my journey turned out to be a massive, massive like influence in how I write now. And I'm like, it's gonna sound really weird, but I'm actually thankful for the first lockdown for it doing that. Like, I understand everything externally of what happened is terrible, and I'm not trying to belittle that. I'm just saying that I have to be thankful, because if I was still working, and if I was still working, if we wasn't in lockdown, I wouldn't have had the time to do that, and I wouldn't have had the time to progress me in the space and time that I'm progressing.
Yeah, get it completely. Like, went for something similar myself, really, because I know quite a few creative people from all over the country. As soon as they went into lockdown, it either forced them to change the way they were looking at the creativity, or in some cases, completely stop. Now, I used that opportunity to try and learn how to do different bits of things I hadn't done before, and trying other projects and stuff. So yeah, get it completely. It's been a blessing in some ways, I think, done to lockdown. Horrible in a few ways, but a blessing in a few, definitely. So brilliant. Now, I want to talk to you today about them, because I know you're telling a little bit before, weren't you, about your motivational speaking? Because I know you haven't done it for a while, and obviously you were telling me before it's coming back. Well, tell us a bit about the background of that then, where this came from.
It actually stemmed from my poetry. Like, a lot of people were commenting, saying how they really like my poetry, and that they understand it, they found healing from it. And in some capacity, I've always been that friend in the circle that people go to for advice, for nurture, for help, or just an ear to listen to, a shoulder to cry on. So
yeah, I can see that straight away in your camera as well, straight away. You can tell, you can get, what, are you one of these sort of people who believes in auras, if you know what I mean, my auras? You can feel it. You can feel it immediately off you coming off your mate. You can.
I can read people's auras. Like, I can stand in a room full of people, and I know exactly who's cool, who I can vibe with, who I can gel with, who I need to stay away from. Like, I could just tell. Whether I do it or not is a different story altogether. Whether I listen,
that's a different ball game. Well, I fell for that. I've fell for that trick before now. So yeah. I know what you mean, mate.
So like, I pay attention to my own readings now, because I never used to before. But yeah, I'm that person. So I've always had that. So then, like, I decided, that my poetry was healing people in such a manner that I wanted to carry that on in different formats. So I decided to just do these motivational videos, and just talk about certain subjects, certain topics, and try to tap into them and help people to understand that, you know what, you don't need to think like that. You don't need to be like that. Society tells you to do one thing, but that doesn't necessarily make it right. Being like a necessity and what's right aren't always the same thing. So I really sort of tapped into that. And I took a moment out of Instagram and social media. I just wanted to compose myself and center myself again. But I will be doing more motivational speeches, either once a week or once every 2 weeks. I'll be putting them on my Instagram at poet_RS. Because at the end of the day, it's important. It's really important to keep in high spirits, to understand yourself. You don't always have to be happy all of the time, but you do have to understand the emotions you're in within that time. So that's what I focus on with the motivational speeches.
Yeah, I think you have to, because we're in that time at the moment. It's going to be some time, obviously, before we come out of any kind of lockdown. And whether we go back to the way we were, that's another debate. But I think, I'm sure it's changed everybody. I think it has. But in your case, I did motivational speech. I think a key thing is, truth be told to you. Like, it's trying 100%. To make people realise what comes within. Yeah. Oh, excellent stuff, mate. So
100%. And I think, like, also, people now, especially now more than ever, are trying to seek an outlet. Whereas before, many people were okay with not handling their emotions and blaming, if you will, on the fact that they're always busy, or keeping themselves busy so they don't have to tackle those emotions. But with lockdown, with COVID, with uncertainty of what's going to happen in the future, all of these things have been bubbling up like at a very rapid rate, and people are now understanding that I'm not okay and I need an outlet. But what I will say is that it's okay to not be okay. The fact that you understand that is the first step towards healing, and that's something that I had to find within myself before I even started writing. So yeah, you'll definitely catch more motivational speeches from me for sure.
Check it out, mate, definitely. So I'm looking forward to seeing them. Now, I've got a couple of things I want to ask you about today, Rowan, as well. And I know, obviously, you were telling me before as well. So you can see this is expertly planned research. It's probably done on the huff today. But it's me for that.
You're doing well.
Okay, workshops. Now, I know, obviously, I don't want to go into your day job too much because is what it is. Same with me, really. But I know you do workshop facilitating, don't you? You say about you're doing that every Friday at the moment. Tell people a bit about that then.
So it's called Open Mind, and it's for writing and healing. So it doesn't have, you don't have to be a writer to join. You just have to be a person to join, really. Like anyone is welcome. And what we look at is writing for healing, which ironically I've just said is like how I started my own journey. So we look at poetry because I'm a spoken word poet. I write poetry. We look at different types of poetry. We look at what your truths are as a person. Like, what are your truths? What are your goals? What makes you, you? And then with that being said, we really sort of we dive into that. We dive into that. We allow you to dive into those truths, to understand your emotions, how you're going to get to those goals, why you need to get to those goals, because it's not so much the goal. It's not so much the goal as an individual. It's the journey as well. Because we focus on the end game so much, but we forget about the journey. So we look into that. We write so much. We write. We perform a little mini open mic at the end as well, which is really nice. People get to just release what they've written during the workshop, or if they've come with something new, it's like, oh, I want you to hear this. But ultimately it's a very safe space, and it's a space that people are really drawn and gravitated towards because they understand that they're there for healing. They understand that there's no judgment whatsoever. And that it's just a safe space for them to try to get to know who they are as a person, to write with freedom, and to really heal themselves, because everybody needs that kickstart, once in a while. So
Brilliant.
Yeah, open mind workshops, and they're all the open mind workshops. They're publicized on Instagram. So you can definitely check them out. And yeah, they're every Friday.
Cool. Now, have you found that over this workshop, over the time it's been going, has it changed much in the way you develop the workshops and the way it focuses?
No, not at all. I feel like it's kind of like Shrek. It's kind of like Shrek because there's layers. Like he goes like, I'm like an onion. There's layers.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, this is like the only way I can describe it. This is how I'm a poet. Like I'm talking about Shrek. Like what's going on?
I like it, man.
Yeah, it's like Shrek. Like there's layers, and I find that within myself, the more I understand myself, the more I start to look at myself and who I am as a person and how I'm influencing people and how I want to influence people. I'm finding that there are so many different avenues that I may have looked at from afar and didn't really understand, but now I'm understanding them. And I'm making conscious decisions as to what I want to do. So I want to be a workshop facilitator. I want to do motivational speeches. I want to be a spoken word poet. You know, I want to be the best father I can be for my children. And I'm being selective about what I want and what I want to add to my layers. Because at the end of the day, I'm not really that person that wants to be a master of all, like a jack of all trades and a master of none. You know, I wanna master a few trades and have it as my arsenal, as my person, as my being, and heal and help and inspire people through those specific channels.
Really?
So it hasn't changed me. It's just helped me grow quite a lot.
I get the feeling of what you're saying here. Everything for you has come like as a natural progression. That's respect you for that way. I think it's come. I'm always a believer in creativity. When you really get into it, opportunities open up as a natural progression, and it leads you in different directions. And that's what's clearly happened to you there. And it's everything's come out at the right time. It's brilliant. Now, there's a couple of things I want to conclude with today here as well. Now, I'd listened to this before, and I really enjoyed this. Your improvised session you did last year with Echoes and Edges. Now, see, there's nothing you don't know. If it's on the internet, I'll find out.
You're like a police chief. This is like this is like investigating like the Biggie murder or the Tupac murder. Like you're really diving in. I like it. I really like it.
I've really enjoyed it. And to be honest, I'm actually going to apply to them. So I thought I'd love to go doing something like that. So
they're amazing. Honest to God, they're amazing.
Sounds it. How was that experience for you doing something like that? Because I've fronted bands over the years. I've never done fronted a band live on the net like that. I thought it just sounded absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, I've collabed with them 3 times actually.
You really? Oh wow! I found the one. I'll have to look through the ones. Then.
Yeah, I've collabed with them. Yeah, I had to think about that. Yeah, I've collabed with them 3 times. The first time it was a bit strange because this may have been my naivety. I was like, how? I don't know these. Like, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't know these people. And they just like, yeah, send a video. I'm like, okay, I'll send a video. And then you can watch it live on YouTube, or you can catch like the replay or whatever. And I was really impressed with the way that they just mixed their musical talents with my poetry. Like they, you know, especially at the first time, like they didn't know me from Adam. You know, but they listened to my words and they really felt the poetry. And then from there, I guess it was, I mean, I don't know the process per se, but I'm guessing from there, they kind of instinctively chose what instruments they wanted and what would go where and this, that, and the other. And I was so impressed the first time. I had to come again. So I did a second time. And I the second piece that I gave them was really like emotional. It was called Dreams versus Realities, and it was a conversation with Martin Luther King. Wow. And again, like I was really impressed with what they did. I went back for a 3rd time.
Good man. Good man. Listen, if you enjoy my philosophy, if you enjoy something, you keep going back to it, mate. So 100%. Can't blame me there, 100%. Mate. And who knows? You may crop up for the 4th time yet in the future. Who knows?
Never know. And like, they're really friendly. They're really inviting. Like they're just really, really good people. Like they're just really good people, and they're so talented in what they do. And it's very. What I like is that it's different. It's not just going onto a live and just performing. Like it's like what they're doing is very different, and that excited me the most. So that's originally why I decided to apply, but now I sort of know them as humans, as people, as creatives, and I just think it's such a brilliant platform to be a part of.
No, definitely, I'm going to apply for myself. So it sounds good. Now, have you got anything plans for the future and coming up then? So obviously, I know you get back to your motivational speaking soon, aren't you? So, do you have any ideas what you want to do if lockdown gets lifted then in the summer?
I've got quite a lot of ideas actually.
Good one.
A few of them are just in they're pending, they're buffering because I need lockdown to lift. So a few of them are pending at the moment, but obviously I've got the workshops are going to be ongoing. motivational speeches. I'm never going to stop writing poetry anyway. I'm going to be performing. I've actually got a few performances lined up, which is quite cool. So that's going to be coming. And again, like, I promote all my work on Instagram at @poet_RS. So you can definitely find, and like any shows or lives that I'm doing, you know, it's all on there. And I'm also, I've really fallen in love with creating work around my poetry. So for example, I'm in the process of completing my storyboard for a film that I want to do for one of my poems.
Oh, wow.
So I want to turn one of my poems into a short film.
Go for it.
I've got another poem at the moment which I'm converting into a comic book.
Oh,
yeah. This one's it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. I've got someone to do the artwork for it, so that'll be kind of cool.
Is that something you've always been interested in doing, like graphical novels, that sort of thing, in comics, have you?
Yeah, I really like stuff like that. Like as a child, I used to like draw, and I created like my first comic book when I was like 7 or something like that.
Oh, good man.
Yeah, so I've always been into that. I'm also writing a book at the moment, a mental health book at the moment, which is a mixture of poetry and special accounts and other mediums in there as well. So it's like a multifunctional book / journal.
I was going to ask you about that, because I was wondering, the way you sound like you have everything mapped out in your head. What's a novel going to come? Not a poetry collection, a novel. That sort of.
So it's not. I didn't want to write a poetry collection yet, purely because I don't feel within my journey that a poetry collection would be right for me to do. I mean, it's not that I can't do it. I just don't feel at this moment in time it's right for me to do. I feel like there is more that I want to explore, and there's more that I want to really tap into before I write a poetry collection of my work. So with this book that I'm writing, it's a book, but it's also a journey. It's a journey of understanding. It's a journey of healing, because it's not just talking about mental health from like a doctor's point of view or like a scientist's point of view. Like, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, so I would feel shame to talk about it in that sense, not knowing what I'm talking about. I'm talking about it in a sense of the human emotion, the human perspective. So it's, you know, and it's inviting for you to also add your elements of your journey into the book itself, so you become a part of that book, and the book becomes a part of your journey. So I'm gonna leave it there. I'm not gonna say too much.
Don't give it more. You know, don't want to give it
and all that.
You don't want to give it away if you've got the book finished and published, mate. So we will definitely get you on here again when that still makes. I want to hear about that book, definitely. So,
you know what? When it's finished, I'm going to promote the hell out of it.
As you should. Now, that's pretty well covered all the topics I'll ask you today, mate. So let's just do a quick clarification. Oh, I like that word. Now, I know you're on Instagram already, so I can see it. Poet backside dash at the bottom RS.
Poet _ RS.
Underscore, that's it. I know you've got. I think this is you anyway. Poet RS on YouTube.
Yeah, Poet RS on YouTube as well. Yeah.
I love the gangster pose in your video there. You do your apology of the 90s.
Do you know what, right? He caught the worst shot you could do. But at the same time, it was so natural, which is what I love. You know, he even said, he was like, you just can't take the boy out of South London, can you? And I was going to leave it out. Leave me out, please. I've got one video on there at the moment. It's very new. Like I think it's only like a month old. The YouTube channel, so it's very new. So I'm gonna be uploading another video, which is actually shot by the same person, Chris Studios. It's actually shot by him. So really? I'm gonna be uploading that this month. So definitely watch out for that one. I'm not even going to say the name of the poem. Just watch out.
I've subscribed to it, so I'll be watching you, young man. Definitely, right? Keeping an eye on you. Make sure you're not misbehaving. Now, I know you've got a Twitter page as well, but I don't think you really use that, do you?
So the Twitter page that I had is a very old Twitter page when like Twitter just came out. Yeah. I don't really use Twitter because I kind of feel like I'm not ready for Twitter. You know, I'm not ready for everybody that's on Twitter. I need to learn I need to learn how to use it first of all.
Oh, it's confusing. It's confusing.
But I just feel like I don't feel like I'm in my stage of my journey where I need to use Twitter yet. Like when I get to that stage, I'll create like a Twitter account for my poetry. But the account that I have for that was for like when I was doing my artwork. So yeah, I haven't used it for I found like maybe like 10 years or something like that.
Right, won't know that then, right? So
yeah.
But anyway, that's brilliant. That's a really good chat today, mate. So I know you could do a few pieces in the second half. So it's been a pleasure today, mate. Been fantastic. I've really enjoyed this today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Right. Let's go on to part 2 then. See you in a minute, guys.
Spoken Label.
Hi, guys. Andy is still here with R. I like calling him R. You definitely called this in a podcast interview before, definitely. So over to you, buddy. Let's hear your poetry. I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you. So I'm gonna do 3 poems, and they're gonna be a range of different emotions within the poem. So the first piece I'm going to do is called Custody. Don't go. I can feel them taking you away from me. Slipping through my fingertips, my grip is no longer mountain climberess. I'm climbing Everest with no harness. Because they don't see it as effort. They just see that as I cannot provide safety. Like you haven't lived with me all my life. Don't you dare take him away from me. This world is crumbling piece by piece, which has left me in pieces. Now I got to piece the pieces together, and that grip seems more like a slip trip fall, like April, but I'm not April Fool. Please don't go. With every step I take, you make it seem like I'm getting closer to the ground. I call it ground. You call it a grave. Whilst you strip the child away from me, you're stripping a part of me that longs for nurture, a part of me that lives in nature, a part of me that personifies innocence. It's surreal how the child is so real. Social services are making me antisocial to the services because they can see I'm trying to do right by myself. I'm trying to do right with myself. All my childish wrongs have manifested into my civil rights, so I know I'm right when they left me with you. Well, they tried to. My child is my antidote. But now you want to roll out a different vaccine. So when I get poisoned by life, I don't even know if I have the antibody in this body because my body is so anti. And you want to take this body away from me. You remember the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? I always wanted that wardrobe. Until I realized they were looking for skeletons in my closet. Distraction tactics, trying to give a dog a bone, playing operation, and they're going straight for the soul. Don't go. Please stay with me. We can't get by the next stage by just getting by. I know they realized that when they told you to say bye-bye and your silence was the sound of peace, they hear peace like Gorilla Glue. Stick with me too. Because I don't want to lose you to a society that you have outgrown. Pulled up the pull-ups, your big boy pants aren't just a phrase. I said don't go. It's ludicrous that I grew up to screw up. I didn't understand life after mum died. You decided to give me life that day and the life you breathed into me was pure. We moved past the past to make history in the present. Played poker with all your Pokemon cards to make sure we poked each other along. Bad man acted like Batman. They tried to play me for Joker. I knew we were kings even though I was 5 seasons late to watch Game of Thrones, and the royalty of you, child, is God sent, not God free. Please stay with me. I told my child to be free. But that doesn't mean your freedom is free away from me. I could still be like you. You could still be like me. I may be a man, but I'm not an adult. I threw away that hashtag when I saw societal pressures of hashtag reality, keeping my freedom behind bars so it would forever feel that my face was next to a hashtag. My child is mine. And every time I say I don't go, it's a reminder to myself of who I need to hold on to. Don't go. Don't ever, ever go. My child, my protection. My protection will cover every inch of your body and soul. The hood of adulthood will not darken your sight any longer. You will be seen, heard, and valued, free. To live in a world where my eyes see you as more than just a child, free. To live in a world where my heart will pump for the both of us, free. To live in a world that may not accept you for who you are because they are afraid of what you will become. Society will never agree with our agreement. Hence why they will always try to take you away from me. For their best interest is to make interest off of you and have custody look like a sentence you wouldn't want to write a poem to. My child will not go. My inner child will not go. That's right. I was talking to my inner child. I was never referring to a physical manifestation. I was talking about the child in you that gets lost in a system where you're seeking a better adult life. But the child in you is becoming more of an asylum seeker. So you're seeking and they're seeking whenever reach the end of the road together. Your inner child can provide more services to your social being than any social services being. You just have to look within. Because I can guarantee there is an inner child in you screaming the same words I've said all along. Don't go. Thank you very much.
Tremendous, mate. Absolutely. I felt every word of that then. So the pure emotion in that, mate. I don't think it's a case of what you said. It's also what the case you didn't say as well. That's really hit me well then. So you told the story there basically, and you didn't tell us all. It's like a emotional jigsaw, really. And you didn't tell us everything, but you told us enough to just work out the rest for ourselves.
Oh, thank you.
Great stuff, mate. Okay, and do you want to go straight for number 2 then?
Yeah, so the piece I'm going to do, just have to give a slight trigger warning. So it's about mental health. It discusses mental health, but it also shows you and it gives you an understanding of mental health and how we need to speak it towards our children to get them to understand, you know, what mental health means, how they can help themselves, how they can heal themselves, and how we can all heal each other. So it's done in the masked innocence of Winnie the Pooh, a very childlike and lovable character. So this piece is called 100 Acres in My Mind. Deep in the 100-acre woods where Christopher Robin plays, the awareness of mental health is present in Christopher's childhood days. So what does mental health mean to you? Are we crazy because you couldn't latch onto our craze? Generalized as a stereotype from lack of understanding, and you call us crazy? To call someone crazy would signify ignorance because you don't understand that person's dilemma. However, once you understood the dilemma of that person, would that mean you are now crazy? Andy, I'll let the honeycomb drip in a jar for a while. Anyone can have disorders. That doesn't mean they're in a disorder. I've known calmness in calamity, chaos in stillness. I've traveled 100 acres in my mind, and that was just my baby steps. I've learned to throw away negative comments like a woodchuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. However, I'm still battling your sounds of deforestation. And you would rather see my Winnie the Pooh as fecal matter, but the things that make me different are the things that make me, me. Mental health travels deeper than 100-acre woods. The aches would alone be able to shake the woods. How would you know? How would you cope? If mental health wasn't just stuck in your mental, but transcended into life's caricature, and each character of life is a sound bite. So bite the sound and light the flame, and don't forget my honey, honey. Like a wise old owl said, if the string breaks, then we try another piece of string. But what if I only had one string left and I need to hold on to it? So I string my collective stability together like I'm trying to string words within these sentences. My dyslexia can't call on Alexa or chat to Siri because my short-term memory loss means at times my memory is lost. But when society looks at you as a wise old owl, they expect for you to know more than an elephant. Don't think that the difficulty in interpreting words makes you less of an intellectual. Dyslexia doesn't equal loss of intelligence. And sometimes there's more education in the word silence than you could ever speak on. Those that speak with ignorant words are only passing on ignorant minds. So we need to bounce on them like Tigger and bring Tony the Tiger as reinforcement to keep their word frosties. They need to cool off. And don't wave bye-bye at his coldness because he is bipolar. His mood swings like a child in a playground. But can you blame his rapid nurture and nature when the youthful minds on mental health isn't moving fast enough? So when Tigger sings, I'm the only one, with a solitary smile, did it ever occur to you that even with his friends, he still feels like he's alone? And his ADHD could be a cry for attention, but you would rather focus on a disorder and claim he is disorderly in a world where he can't keep still because he hasn't found a place to sit in stillness. What does mental health mean to you again? You pick apart the piglet and intrude into his intrusive thoughts, then blame him for being worried. Burglary of the mind is a crime. And now he must avoid situations through nervousness, so he stutters his words because he's afraid of giving you the full picture. Applying tenses to his tension, missing out on the fact that even the smallest of friends can be enormously helpful. Because a little consideration, a little thought for others, that makes all the difference. So I will ask you again, what does mental health mean to you? Pay attention to the signs, because sometimes the reality doesn't match up to the internal. And you feel like Eeyore is giving you the donkey punch because it feels like people don't pay any attention. No one ever does. It's that type of lonesomeness that can lead to low thoughts and low spirits, where you think you're pathetic, the epitome of sorrow. What makes you think anything's the matter? Hold up. Why should he be sad? It's questions like that which make me angry, not sad, because you throw a stick in the mud and your stigma mugs all sense of mental health credibility and you claim he's the jackass. I am not lost, for I know where I am. But however, where I am may be lost, yet I always get to where I'm going by walking away from where I've been. Mental awareness has never been more aware than the now. Have you ever been locked down or locked up in your mind? In London, we call that tier 5. Hearing screams as lullabies. Therefore, your only response is to scream back. Chubby little cubby, all stuffed with fluff, sounds good to the ear of the limerick rhymer. But that fluff is not allowing him to move through his mind with enchanted freedom. It's more like a pillowcase to pillowcase the notion that Christopher Robin the world's a way towards healing. Is your understanding of our abilities limited? I know my ability is limitless. And if I have to order my disorders, I won't play with them like Christopher Robin. I'm more like Build a Bear. When I build this bear up and rise out the mud of your stigma, and I will never, ever, ever have to say, oh, bother, because I'm aware of my mental health. The question is, how aware are you? Thank you very much.
Oh, tremendous, mate. Again, tremendous. I love the way you finished up with a question then. You've took people in your full emotional journey there. And you've left them thinking about it at the end. Excellent, mate. Really great stuff, mate.
I really appreciate it.
The last one now, then, isn't it?
Yeah. So the last one is gonna be an uplifting one.
I was just going to ask you. I usually say build people up. Now I'm going to get the big finale now, the uplifting finale. Good one, mate. You remember mine there, mate.
Yeah, man. The grand finale before the curtain call.
Really.
So this piece I've got is called Godlike, and it's all about self-esteem and knowing the value of who you are as a person. So this piece is called Godlike. I may look Homo sapien, but what I say to them is, we are all gods. This isn't a Kanye moment. I'm just saying, if you sever the ties of your insecurities, realize you're not frailties because you failed these Facebook tests that determine what type of human you are. You are a god and a goddess amongst men. You walk along the earth. However, your vision is so high in the sky. I'm not weed smoking when I say you're a visionary. So if Jim can carry the God role on a movie screen, why can't you believe that you could be that in real life? Or am I speaking Greek to you? Everyone here should be classified as king of the gods. That just means you're king of yourself. Play the Zeus role. Attack the titan within to make sure your self-esteem has tightened within. You do not need to throw thunderbolts at humans that throw in toys out the pram. I, Hera, announce you married to yourself. That just means love yourself. Forget the rings and materialistic things that brings about a sense of clarification to the world. I would rather swim in the depths of my mind from backstroke to breaststroke and sit next to Poseidon whilst I tell him all my woes. Let him calm the oceans of my inner self so I can see that my inner self is something that I should be cherishing. We're all like the sea. We've only discovered a percentage of ourself, yet we trash ourselves even though we know that we're 70% water. It's clear to me there's an internal struggle. Let the thoughts Aries on paper to find out why the ink makes you look like Athena. Depression doesn't need to be your only emotion. War brings death. So warring with yourself eventually means that someone has to die. I would rather this Afro deity seek out the love and self-esteem. Without self, how can I esteem to be anything other than mortal? I don't apologize because I had to bring sunshine to show you that turning up the heat can never scorch the skin I am in. I have mellowed into my melanin that I could tell them that God is black and have them crawling back to the underworld where they came from. I'm not even on top of the mountain when I scream, hey, these guys can never attack my soul. I'm bringing nemesis like Inferno to everyone that thought they could play me for Icarus. How can I be burnt by the sun when I have one daughter and two sons who I keep at my center? I'm starting to believe in clarity. I owed it to myself. Thaw out my human nature and be left in the midst of a man immortal to show you my power. Verbally put you in a Medusa-type trance. Forked tongue isn't evil. I'm a Gemini. My star sign and my tongue is split in two, so when you see me in 3D, you can say he is the one. I've taken all myself down and placed it into Pandora's box. I'm walking like a god, and I will never have a tendency to act Achilles. I know that each step I take has me saddling a Trojan. I'm walking like a god with humble steps, trying to reevaluate my evaluation. Don't ever associate me as anything less than what I see. Man, we're not demigods. That is a downgrade to greatness you can acquire, you should desire. It doesn't matter if you're from Mars or Venus. Men and women or any sort of binary don't come into the same context of your inner self. You're a god, a creator of your own destiny and fortune through choices. Make the right ones. Make the wrong ones. Just learn from it. Until each step you take up the mountain has you seeing peaks of clear skies. You're an Olympian. Don't worry about the time it takes to understand your worth. I told you already, you're a god. God works outside the realms of time, so take your time. You will be quick to diminish the conspiracy myth that you're living on borrowed time. Remember, you're a god. I've only been repeating it because repetition is the father of learning. Once you learn how to respect yourself and love yourself and see yourself as wealth, then it will become apparent that gods and goddesses walk amongst the earth as well. Thank you, that's me.
Tremendous. Yeah, great way of finishing off that, Rowan. So I nearly outed you then. Right. That might be getting edited, that bit there. No, serious, mate. Tremendous stuff. Great way of finishing the session off. Mate.
Thank you. No, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure having you, mate.
I feel like we should all look within ourselves and love ourselves a bit more. You know, like, I'm not even coming on like a religious tip when I say we're all gods. I just mean that in the sense of like, we should never downgrade our value. We should always heighten our, or try to heighten our value, because at the end of the day, if you can't love yourself, then how is someone supposed to love you?
Exactly.
If you don't see yourself as beautiful, how are people supposed to tell you're beautiful? If you don't see yourself as someone that is great, someone that is caring and healing, how are you supposed to have these things and have these things put onto you? So
yeah, no, you have to love has to come within for you to love other people can love you. Definitely, mate. Definitely, Facts. Mate. So it's been a pleasure today, So hang around, mate. I'll call you. Make sure you call your R now. I'll put my foot in my mouth again and call you something I shouldn't call you. Been great fun today, mate. I've learned some of it and I've had a good laugh as well. So, well, thank you again, mate. Been amazing,
mate.
Thank you
so much. Take care. Thank you.
Same, mate. Take care, guys and girls. See you all soon.
Spoken, mate.